right, so welcome to the third event of our public conversation series, South Designs Planetary Futures. I'm excited to introduce today's panelists. My name is Kenny Coopers, and I'll just say a few words first about the series before I hand over to Laura to introduce the speakers. South Designs is part of the Swiss government-funded project Governing Through Design, which supports critical and creative research on how design intervenes in everyday life worlds and planetary politics. And within this initiative, we have launched a call for projects to explore how design, when thought and practiced from the South, forges futures. To this call, over 150 teams from across the world responded, and a scientific committee helped us to refine our conceptual approach and to select the projects. The 6 teams who were awarded funding have been working for just over a year now, and the link in the chat should give you an overview of these projects and the teams behind them. Sepa, if you can attend to that. In our opening roundtable at the end of September, we had Paulo Tavares, Jennifer Gabrice, and Michael Urimedimo, who talked about where, what, and how is the South and the planetary, and about the contradictory roles of design in social and environmental change. Today's conversation starts from the perspective of the migrant worker, with the question that Françoise Vergès starts in her recent book, Decolonial Feminism: Who cleans the world? So the central question today will be, what does planetary ecology mean from this situated perspective, from the life world of those often displaced and in the process of making home? And this question frames the work of the Re-imaginations project team, who discussed their ongoing work with diverse migrant communities in Morocco, where they foreground Black and Indigenous ecologies in practices of adaptation to what is, unfortunately, often hostile environments. And this project team will be engaged by scholar, activist, and cultural producer Françoise Vergès. And today, together, they will sketch out in a conversation what I hope is the ecological imaginary that is rooted in decoloniality. I'll hand over now to Laura to introduce our celebrated speakers.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Kenny. And again, welcome, Françoise, welcome, Guillermo, and Maud. So we have a double team today. I would first like to introduce Françoise Vergès, who is a decolonial, anti-racist feminist writer and activist. She received her political education from her activist parents and the people of Réunion. And after working as a journalist in feminist publications in the 1970s, then in odd jobs, she held a PhD from Berkeley and has worked as a professor, as an independent curator, and as a public educator. She writes extensively on the afterlives of slavery, colonialism, and the current politics of extraction and dispossession, racial capitalocene, the decolonization of the museum, and decolonial feminism. Welcome, Françoise. We are very honored to have you. Françoise will be in conversation with Jemo Odoy and Maud Hussein, who are part of the Re-imaginations team. Re-imaginations is an ongoing arts and research project that questions narratives and forms of life experienced and invented by migrant communities in Morocco for their speculative potential in order to imagine collective solutions to current pressing issues on social justice, on radical ecology, education, urban mobility, and indigenous knowledge. And they will be able to share much more with us in a minute. I also want to introduce the individual faces behind this project, which is, for one, Jemo Odoy, aka Jemo 777, who is a Ghanaian interdisciplinary artist based between Morocco and Ghana. The figure of the artist activist and the artist citizen is at the heart of his artistic practice and where the conception of social art unfolds in a creative universe at the threshold of artistic categories and mediums. through music, performing arts, sound arts, writing, photography, and painting. These are all elements that are contributing to the same aesthetic and thought system. And yeah, Gemma, welcome. And you know, your work has already been presented at many personal exhibitions. The latest was the Re-imaginations exhibition, which you held at Mahal Art Space in Tangier, Morocco, which was also part of this project, and which film snippet that we will be able to screen right now is also testifying to. And secondly, I want to welcome Maud Husseys, who's an independent researcher and a curator who is based between France and Morocco. And her research has focused on the question of the making of the city by artists during the 60s and the 70s in Morocco, with a particular interest in the modes of exhibitions in public space, as well as in the visual culture applied by and for the city. And Maud was also the curator of the exhibition at Mahal Art Space. So both Gemma and Maud can attest and can relay some of their experiences. So in terms of how today will proceed, we will first give the floor to Gemma and Maud to give a bit of an opening statement, and then also show some of their video work. And then we'll invite Françoise to come in and give her response. And then we will be engaging in a more conversational format. For those of you who've joined us in previous sessions, this is not a traditional lecture format. It is a conversational format, and you will also be able to, on an ongoing basis, put your questions in the chat. We will have an eye on that, and we will incorporate your questions into the conversation, and you will also be able to comment in the Q&A. Now, without further ado, Gemma, Maud, I will give the floor to you, and yeah, please, for your opening statement. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, everyone. We are struggling a bit with the connection. I hope everyone can hear. Is that okay? Okay,
Yeah.
perfect. Okay, thank you so much, Laura. So yeah, just briefly to talk about a bit the Re-imagination project again. So the aim is to produce images and new ideas of displacement in collaboration with the migrant communities. So actually what we have been working on since the past few months is to set different creatives workshop, one in Esgan and also another one in Tangier, in collaboration with another important community space, which is called Darna and Darna Theatre. And you also have done some fieldwork in Oujda, so maybe you will talk also about it. And in an attempt to create a collaborative archive of a knowledge system that remain marginalized, or even one could say unarchivable. Indeed, what does it mean to produce an archive of experiences that are informed by the loss, by the lack, by the repression, the disappearance, the inability to happen, and despite every odds, every struggle, the will to emerge. One also very important question in Yemo 77's work is how, le comment, how do we work, how do we produce, how do we create together. The collaborative aspect is very important in your work. It's a medium à part entière. It's a medium like other artists are going to use paint or clay or sculpture, or you use collaborative as a medium to produce art, which is a bit at the basis of your work. So which ethic, which methodology, and which process to collaborate with underrepresented population, and especially women from the migrant community, were the most exposed during the migratory journey. So again, the methodology, the process play a key role in your practice, which is informed by the collaborative, by the participatory. One of the first outputs of the project, as you said, Laura, was the exhibition at Mahal Art Space in Tangier in May 2023. And Mahal is funded and directed by the curator Noha Ben Yebdri, which is also the partner of the project. And another partner of the project is Alekma, which is also a very key actor on the migration fields. Are we frozen? Is that working? Okay. Alekma is it's a key actor when we are talking about migration in Morocco. It's a migrant-led organization, like also the Minority Globe, which that you funded. And Alekma stands for Association Lumière sur l'immigration clandestine au Maroc. So this goes a bit for the context, and yeah, maybe we can now play the video so we can offer small inputs after that also.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to say something now?
Yeah, I would just like to say, first of all, my work as a Ghanaian in Morocco is more like more that's already said, by emphasizing on community work, and mostly the focus will go on women. Why women? Because at the age of 5 years, 6 years, it was the question I was asking, how to go in search of my mom and how to go in search of my grandmom. And that's why the matter of female presence of a woman in my work is constant and everywhere I go. And so it's not like I'm coming from the academic field where I have a load of information, but there's more like learn by doing. It's a lifelong learning, which I'm still on the process. So I'm more interested because most of the time, which will come up in as the conversation goes, most of the time I hear what kind of training do you have to work with women? And so by asking that question of, I'm going in search of my mom, and that's my personal business, and that's why women issue becomes part of my research, my field work. And so always at the gaze, always looking out, always observing how people are treated, how myself treated, how women are treated. And I don't pretend to defend women because they are stronger than me. So women can defend themselves, but just observing. I wanted to understand why what happened to my mom happened to my mom. And so I have to be studying the life of women and to understand. So that's why every time in my work, it's very important. It's community work and mostly women in front of my work.
Wonderful. Thank you both. And I will now share the screen to give everybody access to a film that is part of the Re-imaginations project.
Bonjour la famille. Mon histoire, c'est quand j'étais en Côte d'Ivoire, je rêvais de venir à l'aventure. Et le jour où je venais, j'avais une valise comme ça. Et je pensais à ma famille. Parce que je n'ai pas dit au revoir à la famille. La famille ne savait pas que je venais à l'aventure. Et la personne qui m'a marqué beaucoup dans mon histoire, c'est ma fille. Et de jour au nuit, je n'ai fait que penser à elle. Parce que je tiens beaucoup à elle. Ma fille a 10 ans. Et la première, elle a 17 ans. C'est la deuxième qui a 10 ans. Et c'est la plus petite qui me tient beaucoup à cœur. Actuellement. Franchement, ma mère aussi me manque. Presque tout. Et je rêvais de venir à l'aventure pendant que ma meilleure amie, Mireille, elle était en Tunisie. Elle partait en Italie. Je ne sais pas si c'est en Espagne. Et malheureusement, elle n'est pas arrivée. Elle est restée dans l'eau. Que son âme se repose en paix. L'aventure n'est pas facile. Il faut qu'on prenne courage. Le courage, c'est quoi? Le courage, c'est que quand tu es à l'aventure, ne pense pas que tu es seul. Il y a beaucoup d'hommes autour de toi. Tous ceux qui sont auprès de toi, tu ne peux pas les voir, mais il faut les combattre. C'est le seul Dieu qui peut nous enlever dans cette souffrance. Et la souffrance, j'ai vécu beaucoup. Et c'est à Tanger ici que j'ai vu que l'aventure n'est pas facile. De jour et nuit, quand je me couche, c'est ma fille qui vient dans ma tête. Le jour où j'ai touché ma valise comme ça, quand je suis montée dans le vol, la première des choses, c'était ma fille Leïla. Elle m'a dit, maman, je t'aime beaucoup. Et ça m'a fait rappeler beaucoup de choses. Le 1er janvier, c'est elle qui était dans mon téléphone. Et franchement, je n'arrête pas à penser à elle. C'est ma mère qui m'a mise au monde même. Je pense beaucoup à ma fille. Mais je lui fais un gros bisou, ma mère. Et tous ceux qui m'ont soutenu, je leur dis merci, je les encourage. C'est toute mon histoire.
Bonjour, je me présente, je m'appelle Astou Konaté, je suis une Sénégalaise d'origine malienne. Avant de venir au Maroc, je me suis toujours battue toute seule. Je partais en Gambie, j'achetais les trucs africains, je faisais les navettes, je vendais ça au Sénégal. Après, d'un seul coup, je me suis dit que pourquoi pas de venir ici pour essayer si ça peut marcher ou pas. Après, j'ai tenté la chance de venir vendre ça ici, mais alhamdoulilah, ça marche. Bon, depuis que je suis là, parfois je pars au Sénégal, je fais des navettes, moi-même j'achète mes trucs. De l'autre côté du Mali aussi, j'ai des parents là-bas, et à ma cousine aussi, si j'envoie l'argent, elle m'envoie ça avec le camion. Bon, l'été, c'est ça qu'on m'envoie plus à ça. Comme par exemple ça, c'est du Sénégal. Ça aussi, c'est du Sénégal. Bon, ça aussi, c'est du Sénégal. Ça, c'est du Mali. Et les produits aussi que j'ai, il y en a du Sénégal, il y en a de la Côte d'Ivoire, il y en a aussi du Sénégal. Bon. Donc, depuis que je suis là, avant j'habitais à Rabat. Là-bas, j'avais un petit magasin là-bas, mais le début, ça ne marchait pas. Après, je me suis dit pourquoi pas de venir ici à Tanger pour tenter. Donc, depuis que je suis venue ici, alhamdoulilah, j'ai des clients qui vont venir acheter avec moi. Mais alhamdoulilah. C'est risqué même de s'asseoir dans la rue en tant qu'une femme parce que bon, j'ai pas le choix. Tout ça là, c'est pour me battre, pour aider ma maman parce que maman, c'est une ancienne fonctionnaire, elle a pris sa retraite. La personne qui l'aide, donc c'est moi-même qui dois l'aider. Donc j'ai fait le maximum. Même s'il y a le froid, la pluie, le vent, même si je suis malade, je sors. Tout ça là pour aider ma maman. Je me présente d'abord. Je m'appelle Astou Konaté, je suis une Sénégalaise d'origine malienne. Bon, moi je me suis toujours battue toute seule. Le moment que je suis au Sénégal, je partais en Gambie, je faisais des navettes, j'amenais les trucs africains pour vendre aux Sénégalais. Un jour, je me suis dit que pourquoi pas de sortir un peu, de venir au Maroc pour essayer si ça va marcher ou pas. Avant, j'habitais à Rabat, j'avais un petit magasin là-bas. Le début, ça ne marchait pas. Je me suis dit, bon, pourquoi pas de venir ici à Tanger pour essayer. Bon, depuis que je suis venue ici, alhamdoulilah, je remercie le bon Dieu. J'ai des clientes qui vont venir acheter parce que ça les intéresse, les trucs africains. ça les intéresse. Donc, c'est risqué même de s'asseoir dans la rue, de vendre en tant qu'une femme. Mais je n'ai pas le choix, tout ça pour aider ma maman. Parce que c'est une ancienne fonctionnaire qui a pris sa retraite, elle n'a personne qui l'aide. Donc moi, je me suis dit, donc il faut que je me bats pour elle. Elle me manque beaucoup parce que ça fait 3 ans, on ne s'est pas vu. Bon, parfois je faisais les navettes pour venir avec les trucs africains. Mais parfois j'envoie l'argent, on m'envoie ça avec les camions. Tout ce que vous voyez ici, ça sont des trucs qui viennent du Sénégal. C'est du bazin. Il y a les femmes marocaines qui achètent ça pour faire les jalabs, surtout le mois de Ramadan qui va venir. Et ça, il y a pas mal des Espagnols aussi qui sont intéressés. Et des Françaises, des Européennes, quoi, je veux dire. Les produits aussi, il y en a qui viennent du Sénégal, il y en a qui viennent de la Côte d'Ivoire. Ça, c'est pour le froid. Donc, c'est pour le froid. L'autre, c'est pour enlever les taches, tout ça là. Il y a le beurre de karité aussi qui vient du Mali. C'est bien aussi pour les peaux sèches, les cheveux secs qui sont abîmés aussi. Mais alhamdoulilah, Dieu merci. Même si je suis malade, je sors. Tout ça pour me battre. Même s'il y a la pluie, le vent, la pluie, je sors, je n'ai pas le choix. Tout ça pour ne pas rester à la maison, pour se dépendre avec une personne. Je me suis toujours battue toute seule, alhamdoulilah. Je suis une femme forte, alhamdoulilah. Ce que j'ai besoin, c'est la santé. Si j'ai la santé, alhamdoulilah. Dieu nous donne nous tous la santé. Et une bonne réussite aussi. Tout le monde, Inch'Allah.
Ça, c'est mon essence. Ouais. Et le frère qui m'a donné ça, il n'est plus aujourd'hui. Il est mort à une frappe. Quand on voulait frapper, on voulait tenter pour entrer à Septa. Il est décédé à cause des militaires. Ça fait déjà peut-être 3 ans aujourd'hui. Que jour pour jour, même son corps, on n'a pas pu trouver. Il le surnommait ce frère qui est mort. Son nom c'était Stéphane. Il ne peut pas pleurer, mais ce jogging, c'est toute une histoire. Des frappes à la barrière, des convois dans l'eau. Tout ça, c'est toujours avec ce jogging. Je ne l'ai jamais jeté. Vous voyez même ça, c'est le grillage. C'est la barrière qui a percé tout ça comme ça. Il n'a pas pu le jeter parce que je me suis dit, avec ça, je vais toujours penser à lui. Parce qu'il n'a pas voulu me donner ce jogging ce jour. Mais ce qui a fait m'a donné ce jogging, c'est parce qu'on devait partir en forêt. Et moi, j'avais pas de jogging. Il m'a donné ça. Il m'a dit, frère, porte ça, on va entrer en Europe avec ça. Je l'ai pris, je l'ai porté, nous sommes partis. Et lui, il n'est plus jamais rentré. Et moi, je suis rentré avec son jogging. Et il sait qu'il vit dans ce jogging. Donc pour moi, ce jogging, je vais le garder jusqu'à je vais rentrer. Quel qu'en soit où je serai toujours avec ce jogging. Parce que ce jogging me donne le courage, la force. Ça me permet de tenir le coup. Putain. C'est haut. peux pas oublier ce jour. Il m'a donné ça, c'était le 28 août 2016. Il m'a donné ce jogging. Je ne peux pas t'oublier, Stéphane. En ce jogging, tu vis, frère. Et tu m'as donné quelque chose. J'avais plein de trucs, mais c'est le seul que j'ai pu garder. Qui donne un sens un peu à mon aventure. Malgré les choses du pays que je suis sorti avec, que j'ai perdu et tout. Et sinon, c'est juste ça. Et j'espère vraiment que je vais arriver avec pour pouvoir le plastifier, l'accrocher. Parce que ma maison, ma future maison, ce jogging sera accroché. Accroché pour pouvoir le montrer peut-être à mes enfants. Qui sait? Alors je médite tous les jours pour mon frère Pachito, que son cas divin soit vivifié. Stéphane. Dans 3 convois, on est allé ensemble dans 3 convois à l'eau. On a chaviré en pleine Méditerranée. Et Stéphane et moi, on s'est retrouvés au bord des cailloux. Il était inconscient. J'ai essayé tout. Après, j'ai appuyé son ventre, comme on fait souvent. Hein. C'est comme je voyais à la télé et tout. L'eau est sortie dans sa bouche. On est rentré. La semaine qui suivait, ça ne nous a pas empêché de repartir. On est reparti encore. On a vraiment tout fait pour que son corps sorte, mais pas de trace. J'espère vraiment que l'avenir réserve des bonnes choses. Parce que sa famille m'a demandé si je peux chercher un caillou, que je vois son corps, je pose juste le caillou sur son front. Et puis le caillou, je le renvoie au pays. Mais elle a dit que c'était impossible, parce qu'on ne voyait plus le corps.
Bonsoir. Ça, c'est un souvenir de mon aventure. Ça, cette godasse, je suis sorti avec depuis le pays. Oui, c'est une offre de ma daronne, la maman que j'ai aimée, que j'aime toujours autant. Celle qui a été mon père et ma mère. Donc aujourd'hui, quand je vois ces baskets, c'est la seule chaussure qui peut me remonter. Et c'est ça qui me met la présence de ma mère auprès de moi dans ce dehors. Donc j'aimerais aussi en retour lui récompenser de tout ce qu'elle a fait pour moi. Bien sûr, c'est pas facile, je suis encore dans la mer, mais j'espère que ce souvenir va me tenir à cœur et ça va plus me faire penser à ma maman et multiplier les efforts d'améliorer ma situation de vie. Donc, pour elle, je serais prêt à faire du n'importe quoi pour lui sortir de la mer. Et je l'aime de tout mon cœur, donc c'est pas facile un instant de l'oublier parce qu'elle a été quelqu'un de très efficace pour moi. Derrière elle, j'ai appris beaucoup de choses. Derrière elle, j'ai été fort parce que j'ai pas eu de papa auprès de moi qui pourrait me donner cette infection. Donc elle a vécu trop. Et mon souhait, c'est de lui retrouver. Et si je pourrais garder ces godasses ou ces paires de baskets, que je me retourne auprès d'elle pour lui dire que maman, est-ce que tu te rappelles de ce cadeau que tu m'as offert? C'est ça qui m'a aidé au désert. C'est ça qui m'a aidé à la Méditerranée, c'est ça qui m'a aidé à la barrière. Donc, et j'ai préféré le garder comme souvenir pour que le jour où je vais te retrouver, maman, et le jour où je vais t'embrasser dans mes bras, j'aimerais voir cette paire de baskets auprès de moi. Je t'adore, maman, et je ferai tous mes efforts possibles pour te remettre ce sourire, cette souffrance que tu as en travers jusqu'aujourd'hui, qui n'a pas été encore réparée, mais je te promets que je vais faire cette mécanique de mon possible et te sortir comme je pourrais, maman, et pour que tu te sens aussi heureuse. Tu me manques beaucoup, maman. Donc, je sais que toutes tes prières, toutes tes méditations, que je suis pas auprès de toi. Donc, je sais que c'est pas grave parce que tu m'as toujours dit d'être fort, quel qu'en soit où je me trouve. Et rien ne pourrait me faire peur. Je sais que je vais retourner auprès de toi sain et sauf. Que mes ancêtres bénissent et mettent la main. Merci beaucoup, maman.
Bonjour, je m'appelle Sorel Latifa.
Okay, I'm stopping here on the request of Gemma and Maud, and they will say a few words and then hand over to Françoise. Thank you.
Thank you so much. You want to start? Okay, so yeah, I will be very brief about this, but just to give a little bit of input on enjeu about this video. So one, I would say the importance of the theater and performing art is very important in your work, in how you set up and organize this creative workshop with the community. References for your practice, for your theater practice is mainly about the theater of the oppressed, Augusto Boal, and also as a pedagogue, Paulo Freire. So maybe this is also something that you want to talk about. And the second aspect that maybe I will invite you to talk about it also about the objects, right? Because every persons invited in these videos, they are carrying an object with them, and their testimony is about this object that has been symbolizing and has been very important for them to their migratory journey. So yeah, I was wondering if you can explain a bit about this.
Yeah, well, I know there will be more questions in the group. Like you mentioned earlier on, Augusto Boal or Paulo Freire. Yeah, this is, I mean, it happens that you're already doing a work and you find references, like reading decolonial become my references, because when you are dealing with the academics, they want you to give them references. They just don't want you to come with this, your oral education, oral tradition. They believe in what is written on the paper. And I prefer not me writing, not to make mistakes. Mistakes means maybe I would think a research is ongoing, right? So if you write something about it, if you write a thesis on it, and it happens, it's not complete. Like it's been more than 20 years. I want to write a book about my story, and I'm like, no, wait a minute. I have other brothers and sisters that I don't know. I have to wait till I meet them, till I see them and talk to them before I can even go by. So for 4th time, I have to always abandon the book because I was afraid of not saying everything, you know. And so it's the same way with the work we are doing. This comes from my point of view, and I take all responsibility. That's not come from the viewpoint of others. It's within my angle. And so, yeah, this is reimagination. Why not individually? Because we are in a classroom, and we have different way of thinking. Some think very fast, some think very slowly, some with traditions, some with education, home education. So the way of thinking varies, but which the system does not give us. But in my research, I have this freedom of taking my time to observe things. Mostly, my time is limited according to the concerning the means of finance I have. But when I have it, nobody is left out. Whether you can speak, you can speak. Whether we can understand each other or not. And so I'm from Ghana, and you will see that majority of the participants on this particular project were Francophones. And because we could exchange, I wouldn't go out to look for Nigerians or Cameroonians or Ghanaians, but then I would work with a Francophone. Are they not here? They are here. Some are visible, some are not at all. Ghanaians are not at all visible. They are in the kingdom, but not at all visible. Nigerians are really, really visible, and they are somehow independent. Cameroonians are becoming more independent because when it comes to the creative sector, they've been seizing more opportunities now in the kingdom, then followed by. So I'll always work with, and it depends on what kind of region, because the situation, the migrant population vary within regions, within sectors. There's a place you go and you see a lot of them diversified, and there's a place you go, you only meet Senegalese or Cameroonians, or and so on. That is why the work is this way. But I'll give the floor to, I'll leave it, I'll give the floor to Françoise Vergès, and I think the rest will come within questions and all. Yeah, it will come, yeah, I prefer through questions, yeah.
Hello, good evening. Thank you, everyone, and thank you very much. So I saw I saw the film before, but seeing it again has been very strong. One thing I already noticed the first time I saw it, this name they give, like the adventure. I made the adventure, joint adventure. And already at the first time I saw the film, I was very interested by that word, that the way it is. And of course, with the same meaning that people will give it to it. But I was very taken by that. It was very important. It really questioned me. The way that women and men who had gone through terrible condition and also being separated from their family, from their children, from their mother, talking about at the adventure. And I was thinking, okay, what is the content we can give to that word, which is not in the same thing that in Western literature. I mean, the genre of the adventure that we see in Western literature. And the fact that for me, of course, their journey is a journey of incredible courage, strength, and solidarity. A threat, of course, danger, and solidarity. An incredible, incredible journey, in fact, that are really very, I mean, for me, the narrative of the 21st century, of this century, which little different from migration before, either the forced migration through slave trade or the migration during colonialism or imperialism, or even, the migration of the 50s and 60s, or, made. So that difference because of course, what they know about the place they want to go to, because they have seen on TV, they have heard about it, whether it's France, Germany, or Spain, or Italy. So it's not the same thing when, when people did not know where the ship was taking them. They were told that they will arrive, I don't know, in the Caribbean or in the Indian Ocean, but they had no idea of where they will land. And of course, they don't know exactly where they would land. I mean, the idea, the image they see on TV or whatever will not be effective in the reality. But nonetheless, it's different. And I thought that, in terms of the narrative, because you were talking about image and narrative, that it's really another theory, if to use that term, of life and making life and imagining life. With the longing for the mother, the longing for home, and at the same time, the making of home where we are, because you need to make home wherever you arrive. You need to also hang on a souvenir, whether it's the shoes or the pants of a comrade or a suitcase. there is an object that that represents that. So the way in which object represent memory, not in the same way than in Western museums or in a shop, but in the investment, the total affective investment in that object, and that object that remain that can still be touched, whereas in a museum you cannot touch the object. The object become a dead object, something. Where this is, of course, because even in the museum, the object can be invested with some memory, but you cannot touch it anymore. It's dead, it's away from you. That one, you can still touch it. You can, effectively, and through either the pants of Stéphane, this young man will remember his comrade, or the shoes, the mother, or the suitcase, and through, different things like that. So that was, for me, extremely important in terms of reimagination. And at the beginning, you talk about, the importance of women, and how the women, what their experience and their knowledge bring to the pedagogy, this pedagogy through which you're looking, and through Paulo Freire and others. And of course, for me, it's a very important question. And as Laura was saying, I started, who cleaned the world was my question. And that question was raised for me because I thought it was totally ignored by Western feminism, which look at, the fact that the man does not do the laundry or does not, take out the dishes, but not about the fact that if they can be feminists, it's because some women have been cleaning the amphitheater where they have their meetings, or the gallery where they go to see, an artist friend, or the theater, or where, all those places, or even the square, the public space where they're going to have a protest. Men have cleaned that space, or women have cleaned that space in the morning. So even this ideology of protest are made possible, can be expressed and can be elaborated, can be written, because women, Black and brown women, invisible, have made the work that made that possible. So I wanted to insist on that. And since we have been talking also about ecology and environment, they made the environment livable. If they did not clean the amphitheater, the pharmacy, the commercial mall, the school, the daycare center, wherever we go, the environment will be hostile. You don't go there, and you will not go. So they make that possible. And I noticed that for me, a lot of environmentalists don't talk about that. They don't talk about that work. They're going to talk about cleaning of nuclear waste, or but not the cleaning that made even their speech or meetings possible. So that is two things that for me, and this question of invisibility and visibility, because what is visible is the result of their work. No, you notice right away if a place is clean or not clean. It's never in between. It's either clean or not clean. So you see the result, but you don't want to know who have done that work. What is invisible is the woman who does that work, not the work itself. Because if for instance, the boss decide that the work is not well done or not done enough, she will have to start again. She will have to double, shift. She will have to do more. So what is invisible is the exploitation of a Black and brown woman, not her exploitation. She has, what she does has to be, because in fact, and this comes back to colonial slavery and colonialism, the world of the master has to be clean, but the woman who made that work should not be seen. She was not even a human being because she was enslaved. And that continue even for me, through how the colonialism, European colonialism, instituted a division between clean and dirty. Their world was clean, naturally clean, because they are civilized people. And the rest of the world was unclean. You just can read, travelers or colonial administrators or, or settlers who will always describe the world of the native as dirty, smelly, and even today, when you read, for instance, travel guide, they will tell you, don't go to that market, it's smelly, it's not hygienic, don't eat the fruit, oh my God, don't eat the fruit, but go to that place which has been made for tourists, so the fruit are shiny, the fish does not smell, the meat, you don't see blood, so that constant difference which is made. And at the same time, the West assigned to these people the work of cleaning. And the third thing I would want to say also about this division, the dumping by the North of all its waste upon the global South. Especially, we know in Africa, in Accra, the biggest e-waste dumping site, but also, the fast fashion, absolutely, which in fact is an environmental toxic, very toxic, and very bad for the health of children and women and men. So how this, we can see that. Also how through that, because you were talking about, how women teach us something, and they also bring in the world the specificity, if I may say, of bodies. Women have needs which are different from a male body, whatever, if we don't want to go into essentialism of, biological essentialism, but nonetheless. And this is very rarely discussed also by NGO or by, international, foundation, that, and migrant women will talk about it if they feel that they can trust the person. They will talk about, the fear they have of rape, or the fact that they will take pills before, going to the adventure, or, the monthly need of women, the lack of water, to clean themselves. So I think this is where there is also a new pedagogy, the imagination of a new pedagogy that take into account what I call, not what I call, but what I mean by the vital needs, the politics of the vital needs. Because if we were taking seriously the vital needs of migrant, about migrant women and men and children, of course, different age, different ability, the people with disability, the pregnant women, the girls, all this is different. And we will pay attention to that. It will be totally transformative and even revolutionary in the sense that things will have been deeply transformed, because this denial of women's vital needs, of Black and brown women vital needs, serve, of course, racial patriarchy and capitalism. Again, when we see about cleaners, and even though the technology is, incredible progress in technology and science, the number of women who do the cleaning is increasing all over the world, is increasing. There is not less, there is more and more. So we do see that as, white men are sending people to the Mars and wherever they can be sent, or, being able to do incredible things in terms of technology, artificial intelligence, and blah, 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 blah. Nonetheless, cleaning is still being made by women of color. That's, one thing. And so we do see also in terms then of the pedagogy of the oppressed, if we want to that, the incredible increasing gap between the incredible progress in science and technology and the fact that these needs are not fulfilled. And the gap is growing instead of, being in error. So by practicing imagination from the narrative of migrant, and as you were underlying, from also listening to women, not because of, that women know more or best, but because of their position the fabricated vulnerability in which they are closer to some of the things. From them, effectively, another pedagogy can be imagined and can be put in practice of what is to live peacefully, about solidarity, about memories, about effectively, as we were saying in your film, a narrative of migration that are not the kind of narrative that is expected by state or by NGOs, that you have to insist on the suffering or insist on some trope that the West can understand, or whatever violence, but about especially what it is, how you build new connection, affective connection, because you're away from your family, you're away from your children, and so you need to build some connection. You cannot be alone, so how they teach us the incredible importance of relation, that you cannot do it alone. So against the incredible individualism of the West, of the capitalist West, they teach us again of the incredible importance of relation, of intimate relation, of relation of solidarity, of relation of being together and creating, a site of solidarity and memorization. So in the reimagining, the reimagination that is being done, what your work is with migrant is offering, I will say, that that how do we teach again, how do we learn again about that need of social relation, and how, and a very deep criticism of individualism. You cannot live alone. That is not true. That is not true. So it's not just about, poverty, escaping war, but about that which capitalism want to destroy, want us to be isolated from each other. So I think that a very strong, that absolutely fundamental today, the content of that social relation as effectively the basis, the foundation of living together in peace.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Françoise. Guillermo, Maud, do you want to respond immediately? I do have a few questions around the solidarity question, but I would give you the opportunity to respond first to Françoise' rich offering.
Yeah, she just ended up with something that talks to me a lot, the separating the family, because to build up the system starts from the family. And to dismantle the system is to dismantle it in the family by separating father from mother, and then children from parents. And then you create a conflict where each person we hate each other because we don't understand our parents, and then our parents don't understand each other, and which is what has been done to the African family anyway. And that's why most of the time I'm interested in working with the women, because most of the time, and the more and more I would talk to, I will find new ways of approach and new ways of working, which is being questioned every day. Am I doing the right thing? Is my approach appropriate? Am I checking up with academics? Am I following the law? The way I talk to, can I touch a person when I'm talking to the person, whether regardless of gender? Can I just hold their shoulder, which is in the African tradition of talking to somebody, tapping on the shoulder, but in the Western tradition, it could be something different, totally different. Which means when you come to Ghana, you see the 7 colors of the kente, in the West, it might be translated into something else, to something else. And so am I doing the right thing? And if I'm doing the right thing, is it valid only in Ghana, only in Morocco? Is it going to be valid in the West? So it's a lot of questions we ask each other. And following migration, most of the time, it's a dismantled family, broken families, broken homes. And so that's why I'm more interested in African migration to the West. Because I think if something is not broken in the family, nobody is going to leave home. The solid families will secure visas and they will go away and study, and when they are done, they come back. But those who cross the desert, majority, I mean, if they are coming from a war zone, you have educated ones with them crossing the desert. If they are coming from normal places like Ghana, where the economics the economic distant structure is falling at the moment, it's totally falling. And so then you should be expecting a lot of Ghanaians coming, which is the case now. When Emigito started, I'm like, they're going to come, and they start coming, although they don't come on a way. And the same thing you have in Nigeria, when there's a kind of something happening in Nigeria, it could be political, then you have a bunch of people coming. And then since the Libya road became more terrible, more horrific, and then everything is coming on the way of Morocco, you know, so you should be expecting people coming. But then if you have the time, which is the guest, reimagine the way we approach, we reimagine the NGOs interviewing these women, men and young boys and men and young women and ladies come in, and you are like deciding what they have been through and not really talking to them to know what they have been through. You know, I mean, this is what is happening. We have what our notion of things, and I'll put it this way: you know everything about me through what you have been taught about, and then I know all about you through my spiritual knowledge. Through my spiritual knowledge, I can tell what I know about you. Through what you have studied in the universities, in books, in documentaries. And so if you have been told a lie, but the knowledge I have about you is spiritual, it says everything. And so no matter what you say with your books you have written, that somebody is trying to help women, and we are like, everybody, okay, they are all going, they should be having a gender issue, there should be war, the women should be maltreated, should be beaten up. We are not saying it's not the case. Most of the time it's the case. But now you have women crossing the desert all by themselves now. They have not been pushed out because now they want the same thing. They are seeing on the TV, one or two friends have gone and they have succeeded and they are going. I mean, not only with Francophone women, I have a project again, that's with the association, which is called, not the association, the project we did, the Nigerian women.
Circle of Care.
Circle of Care. Circle of Care was with a Wisconsin University in the States. And so we've been doing this project for 3 years. I think because of the COVID, we stopped it. So we have PhD and master's degree students and which PhD professors coming in and then coming to meet these young Nigerian women who are mostly from Edo State, who have horrific stories, because we know when they get to Italy, Spain, and France, and the UK, we know what happened there, and they'll be sharing their stories. But this time around, they have to play the role of the oppressor, not listening to them, give them the tools to play the role, and then you have things coming which is more than you can imagine, and they become free. They are really free because it's the first time they have to play the role of the oppressor, and you have to observe, give them the tools, or allow them to create their own tools. And there's a lot of knowledge coming in there. You're like, maybe I can add this knowledge to my embodiment of knowledge, and to take it from there to the next stage. And so finally we realize that there are a lot of things I will emphasize. It's not because they know more than us, but because they have been through things and they know better on the issues we want to discuss, the terms, the subject we want to talk, they know better because they are the victims. And not even a victim in a way. A victim is scientifically used to describe something or a subject or a situation, but being a victim, because most of them don't know they are victim. That's so wonderful. They don't see what is wrong with what they have been through because they are aware that they're going to go through what they went through. And so that's why they behave that way. So yeah, we are always careful in a way, questioning our approach to make sure that even if we are making mistakes, it's limited, but we shouldn't be afraid to make mistakes. This should be one of the main things. I want to leave the floor again for questions, and yeah.
Thank you so much, Jemo. I thank you also for providing us with such rich testimony, and Françoise also for your incisive commentary. I have a very particular question, and I would also at this stage invite participants to put their questions into the Q&A. There's already some coming through, but my question is to all three of you, Maud, Jemo, and Françoise, about this relational production of solidarity, right? And I think it came through in the videos, it came through in what you said, Françoise, and I would like to quote from your own work that says, you know, this multidimensional approach to feminism makes it possible to avoid a hierarchy of struggles based on a scale of urgency whose framework often remains dictated by prejudice, right? And I've been grappling a lot with this. How are we actually producing these spaces of solidarity? Because it sounds quite simple, it sounds straightforward, it sounds human, but at the same time, we know that pity is not solidarity, it's patronizing. Despair is not solidarity. It's the same way, right? Solidarity is the kind of present that costs you something. And this is something that I've taken from a wonderful page called Black Liturgies, right? That I can really recommend. It was sent to me by a colleague recently. So this question of you know, what does solidarity cost us, and who should it cost, and how reimagination works as an act of solidarity, but maybe also to highlight that it comes at a price, at a planetary price. And I don't know if I articulate this correctly, but maybe you can respond to this notion of how do we actually live and produce these planetary solidarities that it requires, also in a kind of feminist caring approach, right? It's the circle of care, right? How can we draw this circle of care? What are the steps? And I mean, I'm not looking for a manual here, but you know, some reimagination. So I don't know, Françoise, do you want to give it a go, and then we hand it over to Jemo again?
Very quickly, you know, I think solidarity is something that is constantly being worked. I mean, it's not established once and for all. Has to be nourished, has to be reworked. There can be fatigue at one moment, and so you have to start again. It's not a given. It's not a given. And then also, what kind of solidarity? You have also to be careful of not wanting to do good, and then not listening to what people want, because people may want what you don't, your first things, oh, I need to do that, and so on and so forth, but this is not what people are expecting. I give a very, 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 very quickly an example. Years ago, there was a call for boycott of a T-shirt coming from Bangladesh because of the woman being exploited and so on and so forth. Okay. And I asked the people who contacted me, the feminists who contacted me, is this a demand from this woman? They say, no, but we think it's a very good, you know, action. I say, but if this not a demand from the woman, why it's like to feel good? So we don't, you know, because of course we can think, oh, their salary or, you know, not good and so on and so forth. But do we pay attention to what these women want? And perhaps even, you know, this salary for in your eyes of Western women is very low, but for them it still allows them to send their kids to school or, you know, different things. And what they want is like the freedom to unionize, to put their own demand, what they want, you know, to forward. So, you know, this was a feel-good things, righteous things, kind of like solidarity, but in fact it was paternalistic and you know, even, you know, colonial kind of thing. You know, we know better than these people, what these people need. So solidarity is work. It's not something that, it's work, it's listening to what people want, is wondering, so what do you do? And always looking at your own position. If you're in the north, you will always be more privileged and on many levels. So it's really a work. It's really work. And what is needed this month may not be, you know, what will be needed next month. So it's work. Solidarity is work. Solidarity is listening to what people demand and work. And then also, what can you do in the north to stop something that is unfair, totally unfair, because you have this position, and what people, you know, in their situation whereas it's, you know, in the north, for instance, in the migrant camps, or, you know, what they need. So it's a constant situation, but you have to work with the people. You have to listen to them. That's the first things. If there is one thing about solidarity, is to listen and to work with the people.
Thank you. Jem or Maud, do you want to come in?
Yeah, it's very beautiful what Françoise just said, which is work and listen, which has been the main approach of the way we work on this side. I had my major break with MSF, the Médecins Sans Frontières, where we have been trained every time on the approach, where we are being evaluated every time. And then it could have been, it was like a B school for me, and I've been applying it. I think I was at the right place at the right moment, because, I mean, before getting to Morocco, I spent 7 years in Senegal, and I was already involved with community work, because I was more of living my Eldorado in Senegal, beautiful life with, surrounded by public figures, and so much learning. And so I had a means, I was in a situation of vulnerability, but then at the same time, privilege, extremely privileged. And so then most migrants in those days will look onto me, trying to ask for help. And so I had a means. It wasn't a help that I have to see somebody, I need you to, I had a means to, I was very young, I had a means, every money that's come into my pocket were too big for me. And so I had a means to help. And so that's when the idea came, they were like, you have to look at what is happening in North Africa, you know? So the idea of coming to North Africa came from migrant communities. We need you, I think people will be needing you more in North Africa with all what you are doing. And then I have to cross the desert, almost losing my life for 5-6 occasions, and finally. And so I have to listen, I have to, and this particular thing that stuck in my mind, that was somewhere in Tinzawati in Algeria, between Tinzawati and Shibirish, and where it was like a war zone. It was like what is happening now. I'm talking about something that happened 19 years ago, 20 years ago. And then I remember when I went in for the loaf of bread, and this young woman went naked, and she was like, I just want a piece of bread. Yeah, just went naked. I mean, just then I will hold my eyes and just handed the bread, and it was a wake-up call again to understand what was happening on the desert, what was happening on the trajectory of migration, what are the vulnerabilities, and sometimes the victims' focus goes on women, and because it was shameful to talk about what the vulnerability of men too, going through the same thing, you know. So the focus will go on women. Then you have to observe and you have to understand, but then the most visible one were those about the women. So you were like, want to do something, and then what is the approach? What are the ethics? You will learn new words. Sometimes you know what they're doing is wrong, but you don't have the appropriate word to describe it. And then finally you get involved in the NGOs, then the words start coming. I love somewhere in Françoise Vergès' work, where she was mentioning about the women she was expecting the women to talk somewhere in India or something. They were using the same NGO terminologies, capacity building, women empowerment, and so forth and so on, you know. But then there are more organic words that you could have used freely, but then you are looking for a word that will talk to somebody scientifically, somebody from the academic world, somebody from the founding world, where you use this word and like, you are the right person we are looking for, this is the money, work, you know? So these were the things we were experiencing, and then trying to understand the migration issue. We're like, is it all been said? Have the researchers really searched on it? And it got to a time I was like, I used to tell MSF, I think, you all need to cross this desert. You all have to be migrant to really understand it, because they don't give you the information you want, they give you the words you want to listen to. Because they know with these words, they are going to get their kit, food kit, they are going to get their medicine, some are going to be assisted, also they are going to talk in your language. They are never going to speak in their language. They are never going to tell you what went on. They're not going to tell you all. Some will reinvent what they want to reinvent. And that's why reinvent is a question of survival. It got to a time I had to study how UN refugees asylum seekers were accepted. And I found out that those who write the best stories are those who were accepted. And so majority who had the statue were those who fake the story. Not the real people who really needed as a statue of resettlement. They couldn't tell the story. Some have not gone to school. Some are not behaving the way that will talk to the person who is the interviewer. So they are going to be left out. And those who are very crafty and they know exactly what these people want to hear, the interviewer is going to craft the story and give it to the interviewer. And sometimes the interviewer is aware that the story has been crafted, but they are going to choose it because this is what they are going to use to keep on getting fundings to resettle refugees or whosoever. So then they became creative and then all sorts of things. But at the end of the day, we have to listen to them individually. Because what the masses, what the academics think, what the NGOs think, whosoever founding thinks is not really the reality. We don't allow them to speak about what happened at home. How was their education at the age of 15 years, at the age of 10 years? Where were they? We are not interested in this thing because we are so much in hurry. We don't give time. And then again, Françoise Vergès works, you see, long road to freedom. And then you're like, who want to take that long road? Because they are all about responding to deadlines, 3 years projects, 4 years projects. We have to send report and then we get the next funding. We have to close up the project. And so nobody is ready for this long road to freedom. And then so everything is going to be make up because that fits in the capitalist system. So they are going to make up things just to go to the next work and then the next work and then the next work. And then when you are reimagining, you have to be ready to take this long road to freedom. So when we talk about solidarity, first of all, in our approach, which was, we became very critical in Morocco here. As the Minority Club started as a music band. And then as time went by, I realized I was the Minority Club leader. The band leader was the guy who was paying the real money to the musicians. And they were not considered professionals. Why are you paying them so much? You are destroying the market. Nobody can program you because you're so expensive. And then you go to attend the other musicians, they will realize you are the one paying real for the musicians. And then, but this will be applied to everything. Because I remember in Senegal when I was working, my boss told me, an employee who is well paid never steals. He's always happy. So I'm going to pay you well. And I always apply it. And it's everything is what I do with the Minority Club every time. Every time somebody is always questioning me, why are you giving them this amount of money? And I'm like, I'm taking their time. They're like, no, we are going to talk about them. This report is 5 years time, maybe it's going to change their life. I'm like, they're in need now. So if I'm taking them to participate in a project and they are not even working, I'm going to negotiate with the person I'm taking the cash from. that this is what they are going to receive. If they're okay with it, I'm going to do it. If they're not okay with it, I'm sorry. And this is how, so solidarity in the minority globe or in my work, it already exists by putting everybody financially on the same page. Sometimes also this particular one is documented, that one is not documented. This one is experienced and that one is not experienced. I take the both communities. I know you, I don't know you, you are receiving the same thing. And so this is how solidarity is built, because I think it's not from the angle of a pity or something, from the angle of knowing that this is their main need, house rent. That when you are going to get them, you had them because they had nothing doing. If they are busy working, they give you excuses. Nobody's going to leave their job and come into your project. So what do you put in place that they can come into your project? And if it's possible, can you make it more? Can you exaggerate, give them more? And so all of our work has been this, with both communities, with anybody involved, have to have this approach of solidarity. It's because I'm coming from the field of NGOs. They were not giving money. They were giving bread, and that was it, bread and butter, and that was it. But I know this is bread and butter is not what they need. They have to pay their rent. It's their most biggest stress in Morocco here. They have to pay their rent. So if they are coming to spend 3 days in my job, my project, I make sure before they go, at least they have their rent. And so it has been a big critique, a big situation here. But I'll give the floor to Maud if you want to say something more about, elaborate more on that.
No, I think it's fine. I think Kenny has a question.
Yeah, thank you so much. I think this already says so much about the kind of strategies, perhaps also nudging towards the term design for shared humanity and solidarity across difference. And I wonder, picking up on the question that Ruhama Thejus asked about what this looks in reality/practice. I assume practice also design practice, since that's the framing. How we might understand that, what you think would be a designerly approach, and perhaps to pick up on also what Françoise was saying before, if we think about the process and the work of cleaning, what role does the environment play itself, and in potentially reshaping or redesigning this much needed solidarity. So yeah, I don't know, Françoise, if you'd like to start, or Jimo. So design is the big question, I guess, how we can think about this in design terms.
Yeah, but may you repeat the question, because I did not really.
Of course. So I think Ruhama Thejus asked about practice, what this means in practice, but I think Jimo has already talked a lot about what this everyday practice is. So I think I'd like to ask you to think about this term design, or the design of the environment, as a process, but also the materiality of the environment, and what role that plays in this project of producing solidarity that both of you have been talking about.
Well, it will depend on what space we are talking, what environment we are talking. Urban, north, south.
Perhaps
if I think of most city in the world, even in the south or the north, the way cities are designed are hostile to poor people, to migrant, to refugee, to women. They are made for the fast-moving, as Jimo was saying, the guy who succeed and will run around, the banker, the trader, the kind of successful according to some norms. So cities are not made for, most cities are not made for, like real encounter, like a unexpected encounter, the serendipity of encounter that in fact fabricate, the connection, because you meet people you have never thought you would meet, and then it open your mind to new reality. So of course you do have space like markets, I mean environment that, you know, or places like that, but we know there are less and less that people also have to rush. I mean, public transportation is very bad. I mean, you don't, what I mean is like life is made less and less open to unexpected encounter that will transform your way of seeing, you know, which sometime, as Yemo was saying, that migration will provoke unexpectedly, perhaps, but you feel yourself with people that you will, you know, some of your friends, but somehow you don't know them. And to constitute a community in the situation, you know, like you have to be together. So the environment, what I mean is like environment is not a neutral construction. It will, the environment as it is built has an impact on the way you circulate, the way you feel free or you feel welcome. Most places today are not welcoming to migrants and poor people are not. You don't even need to write, you know, migrant not welcome. They know they're not going to be welcome. So it's also the unwritten rules, but nonetheless very written in the environment of social and racial and gender segregation. So that will be the first things I will say, which mean that building the environment that will effectively encourage or nourish solidarity are mostly the places that are built by people outside of this social environment. The place they will build in the camp, in the community, in a cultural center, or wherever, or in a restaurant, you know, where they know they're going to find, you know, they have heard that you go to that restaurant, you're going to find people from your country, they're going to help you, they're going to tell you where to go to find housing, where to go to find paper, you know. So there is a cartography of these different places that are pass along from group to group or from, you know, and so people, the migrant built a cartography of the environment that is very different from the other people who do the kind of journey, like travelers or tourists or bankers or, you know, chief of state. So when we speak of the environment, we have to clarify which environment we want to look at, and how we will map that environment, and we will map it with the people who live in that environment, who have constructed that environment, and outside of the norms of you know, the city for the successful people, whatever that means, in fact. So that will be, and so the practice will be different. For instance, you know, as I say, people will know, go to that square and you're going to find, you know, in a lot of city, women, for instance, cleaners, because they know that you can go to that square and they're going to find other women with whom they will be able to chat, you know, to exchange and find themselves. So they break the isolation that is pushed onto them. So they built, an environment is being built by this link of solidarity. You know, it's go to that hospital, they will receive you, you know, they will not go to that places, go to that restaurant, go to that bookstore, wherever, you know, they want to go. There you will be well received, you will be welcome, and avoid that place and avoid that one and avoid that place, because in this place you're going to find hostility and there are, you know, toxic environments, so avoid them, because you don't need to be humiliated and attacked and insulted.
So perhaps Yemo and Maud, if I can, you know, I think Françoise gave this very powerful general response. I'm wondering if you could reflect on the many experiences from the people you work with, to think about what that might you know, practically mean in terms of, you know, reshaping environments, everyday environments. Thank you.
Yeah. You want to start?
No, you can start.
Okay, I have just two small comments, and maybe you can build on this. Okay, so the first thing, I was very inspired and interesting about what Françoise said when she talked about the cartography as a migrant and the migrant journey, and what does it mean also in the process of, I mean, in the reimagination, we obviously talk also about what it means, nations, and also borders, obviously. And to deconstruct the borders as something that is external, that is an external political apparatus, but rather address the body border. And what strategy like the migrant communities are using to shift this paradigm from external to internal, and from exogenous to endogenous knowledge, to move the border lines with their own body at an extreme cost and effort, of course, but what can we learn from that? That would be also a comment of question of borders. And about designing environments. So one thing also I found very interesting is this incessant cycle of ephemerity of something qui est éphémère, and an incessant cycle of making home. You call it like makeshift home, right?
Makeshift home.
Makeshift home. And there's also this question about designing environments in places where time and space are abolished. I'm talking about the desert. You often say this, you often say there is no time and space in the desert. There is no time and space in the forest. You can stay here forever, or you can stay one night, but sometimes one night seems like forever. There is no time and space dans les camps de rétention. There is no time and space in border town. So yeah, I find it very also powerful to also, as Françoise said in a book, to make a shift in this linear temporality that is pretty much about the time we are using in the Western world, but to talk about temporalities that are bursted, that are prospective. And yeah, I think this is also what happened as a daily practice, you know.
Yeah, to me, space or time and space, or to the environment, it's more when you have had a chance to be in the forest, to be on the desert, and to be in the big cities. There's no safe space. So the question is, how do we define safe space? And where do we call safe space? Who decide on that? Is it being decided collectively with the people we are working with or collaborating with, or is decided by one person? And most of the time, our safe space or the environment is being created through exchange with the community, those involved, and we will try to go on the aura space, the spiritual space. I mean, when I can feel I'm safe with the person talking to me, I'm in a safe space. It's no more about the space, but it's this intangible. It's not a four square corner room where you are going to call it a safe space, because it's those involved. And if they trust you, if they sincerely trust you, you have a safe space. It depends on where. You can be in a crowd of people and 2 people, 3 people are talking. If they can trust you to talk in that moment, that is a safe space for the moment. So it should be a kind of intangible design. It should be a kind of, I feel the aura of this person. My intuition tells me I can't stand in front of this person, like just Françoise said they know where is when the space, it depends on who they are talking to. If the person is not nice, they know. And looking nice does not mean you have to dress nice. It means because dressing nice could be a form of slavery to a form of manipulation, you know, being a white collar and this thing. Yeah, it could be a distant too. It could be it's the approach. It's the approach, is the way you talk to people. So the migrant community here are more religious, right? Because the question is, are you a Christian or a Muslim? So these are the things which we play in, but they are more going to play on your aura. They are more going to play on your approach, the way you talk to them. They can easily figure out a bad person. They don't need to spend a week with the person. They can feel it. And before they come to you, the same way researchers will go and question a lot, ask people questions. Is it the right person we give the funding to? They're also going to question the community. This guy called me, that woman called me for a project. Do you know the person? So these are people we think they are not educated, but it happens that maybe in their process of oral education, they are more smarter, more educated than us, because they're also quite going to investigate about you before they come to you. And so if one person has been heard, two people have been heard, they have been warned before they come to you. They already know something about you before they come to you. And so safe space is questioning, listening, and being neutral. Neutral even is a form of manipulation, be genuine. These words that we are so much afraid of because we want to be great. We want to be great, so we are afraid of being nice. We want to be great, so we are afraid of saying nice words that will be taken for some cheap person. But these are the things that they are going to read on. They are already fragile, and so they don't have this PhD, this master's degree. They have not sitting in a big university. Some have never gone to school. So this is what they are going to play on. And if you have that, they're in a safe space. If you don't have that because you are more educated than them, the way you dress, the way you talk to them, they are going to say bye to you. And this has been our synthesis recently on a different project. Organic knowledge is a big project for the minority globe. And I met the community. Every time I meet people I don't know. I mean, we have a partner association on the field, and we got there. They have not been able since a month. They have not been able to get people on board. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to use my last card, which is done mostly. So, and then comes on board, and then you listen to, and they say, we had a problem. There was a young researcher who was a student from Sub-Saharan Africa. He has studied here. He's doing a program on PhD, but the way he approached us, we didn't like it. Are you a PhD holder? We don't want to talk to you. And I'm like, no, I know what you mean. I know they are repeating what the West has been repeating, you know, coming and I have questions. I have a few questions for you, and then the pen and the legs crossed, and then counting, and then taking, and then when they've got enough information, ciao, ciao. And so this is what these students are also repeating here. Mostly they'll prefer them because they look Black. So they'll be like, okay, they know better the community, but they will repeat the same thing of the oppressor. They will do it more because we are not those who cross the desert. We are educated. And so they are going to exaggerate. I mean, just a few days ago, somebody called me, want to see me, you don't want to give me name. And if you write me on WhatsApp, the first thing you do, you have to give me your name and everything. Why? If you don't give all these things, you are suspect immediately. So, but then I was like, oh, it's somebody from West Africa, from like me. He's riding all the way from Europe. He wants to talk to me, but he was not giving me. So immediately we met. I'm like, okay, I'm not going to close the door. We met, and finally, I'm like, the next time you do it this way. It's not because you are living in the West, so you have to repeat what the West is doing. I mean, we are working on this field for decades. So this kind of behavior would not be accepted. When we are approaching Westerners that you can do this, you can approach the migrant this way. These are people who feel very, very vulnerable. First of all, you are educated. It's a form of oppression. Knowing that you are educated, knowing that you are coming from a privileged system, knowing that you are speaking good English, your French, they are already oppressed. So find this way of common ground and approach, and this common ground we will always play. And they know their worst oppressors are those who look like them. It's not even the person who does not look like them. So most of them have been in horrible situation, rape and other things. People like me in a creating the minority group in a position in what they will call power, in a position, have been misusing them, their trust and everything. So they have to question things. They have to know that they're with the right person. And the best way to do it, they do it with aura, the way you talk to them. And this, we don't give a lot, because who gives the knowledge never pay for it. I mean, this is what happens with researchers. They come and you give all the information. You are not even mentioned in their thesis that you were the one who did the job and not them. They did by writing, just listening and writing. And so even this, we don't give all, we give limited information about, but there's so many mechanisms. You have to be a human. If you're not human, they will see it. They play with orals. Maybe they do not sit in classrooms, but they are very, very smart.
Thank you, Jemo. That there's been so much here on, I think that we all need to also take to heart in terms of research ethics, but also that solidarity is intersectional, right? And privilege is intersectional, right? And we cannot just determine it by kind of one denominator. It's not only race, it is class, it is gender, right? I mean, we I think what you described is a powerful case for the need to look at each individual in a very intersectional manner and how they engage. But I would like to draw two questions together also, because, this will likely be kind of our last questions. And one is about a question that Fabian Konopka asked about Françoise' notion of life, which has made less and less, or has been made less and less open for encounter. I think what you said now already is about the possibilities for how do we continue to create these encounters, and how do we shape these encounters. And then Georgia Manfredonia has a question also about the notion of reimagination, both as imagination as abstract, but also how they are closely related to tangible and material aspects of society, and maybe also how you brought this into the exhibition through symbols such as the suitcase, and then maybe also lastly around, and this is maybe my own kind of commentary around the idea of decentering design as something that is maybe not anticipatory, it's that is not proactive, but that needs to be more relational and attuned to deep listening. But yeah, those two questions, if you could address those by Fabian and Georgia, and I would like to give Françoise the floor first, and then Jemo and Maud. Would that be okay, or Françoise, should they go first?
No, give the first to Jemo,
Okay.
and
Okay.
so I can rest a little.
Okay, no, fantastic. The floor is yours, Jemo and Maud.
Yeah. So yeah, I would like you to re-emphasize on the question.
Yeah. So there are these question of, I guess, how can we continue to create spaces of encounter? This is kind of one, given all the issues with borders, bordering, embodiment of borders. And then the second question is around the materiality of reimagining. And I think your film shows some powerful artifacts that are used as the kernel through which to remember, through which to reimagine. And Georgia is basically phrasing it, and she's phrasing it in a beautiful way. She says, imagination and imaginaries are something that has to do with the future. But what we see also in the movie we watched is that imaginaries of the past, the present, and the future are closely connected because they feed on memories. They materialize in the present through a series of practices that serve to construct futures. So I guess it's a question of the temporality. So it's a lot of questions, I guess, folded into one. So you can also, as you use this as your kind of closing statement, if you like.
You want this?
Okay, that's what we're on mute, sorry. Yeah, to me, it's also a question of methodology, which is something that maybe I think is very also important to broader, like so we talk about what nations mean to you, right? Nations, like in this reimagination, we have nation in the bracket. Mm-hmm. So we talk about nation, we talk about what it means for you as a way to deconstruct hegemonic narratives about universality, about languages, about practices, and what it would mean to build a nation from the local, from the village, from the dialect, from the community. And imaginations, we talk also about this, like in this exercise, which I find it always very stimulating to define the terms that you're actually using. So imaginations, what we discuss also about is how in the creative workshops, the methodology we are using, to me, is very important what you have created also in terms of practice and methodology. And, you know, the way you kind of select in a way the participants, how do you work with them, and how do you brought them to their own imagination? Because something also you told me that was very important is that for some people they don't have access to this imagination because it's a day-to-day life, and your state of fight and flight, you're in situation of emergency, and as like Georgia, right, as she said, imagination is about the future, but what there were some people, there was some person from the migrant communities, they don't access to the future in a way.
Yeah, they don't access to the future because knowledge has not been accessed. I mean, most of men and women, or women and men who cross the desert, cross it because they couldn't access knowledge. They couldn't access knowledge, and they're like, okay, we are going to the West and to access knowledge there. And so the quoting of how to reimagine something possible is by experimenting what is already there. Because experimenting what is already there demands a long road to freedom. Means long research, not researching, not working with deadlines, but then have this broad project which can elaborate between 3, 4, 5 years, that you have time to understand really, not jumping from one project to the other, so that we have time. It should take maybe, instead of a week or 3 days to make contact, we should take a month, 2 months, 3 months, and talk to people. Talk to them and to understand, talk to them in the way you question and listen. More questioning and less talking, and then it permits you to sit down and listen to the need of everybody. The need could be just in silence when somebody isn't talking. It's a need where we can look at what is happening. Because when you are with a group of people and somebody is not talking much, with my experience, there's something wrong somewhere immediately. Not wrong in the form of a man way of thinking, but something is wrong. We can define what is wrong, but something is wrong. It's because maybe the person cannot speak English or French, or maybe the person cannot read and write and feel the person could be judged, or maybe sometimes because this work has been done by most researchers, anthropologists, and I'm like, okay, we give you pen, we give you paintings, we want you to paint. To them, it's judgment. Asking a migrant person to, can you draw something for me? Just draw something. Immediately they feel that you are ready to judge them somewhere. These two things, write something, even the intellectuals, those who can write the first question, somebody want to manipulate me here. And so you keep asking yourself, what would be the best way of approach? Maybe the best way of approach to go with something local, something that talks to them, but not me. And then I'm going to be interested about your home, where you're coming from, where you are born. Not even about migration at all, because one question can answer another question. So maybe 90% about you, about where you're coming from. And while I'm telling you about you, I'm telling you about me. It's not me sitting down listening to you because you are not a TV that I have to listen to. You are a human being. You are not a radio. You are a human being. So it should be a conversation like we are having now. So have real conversation where the power structure is dismantled. We are on the same level. And so in this way, I will do it in the way I dress, in the way I approach, this thing, the way I address, the way I approach them is to dismantle, first of all, the power struggle, even my power struggle structure, my power structure. Oh, he's a musician, he's an artist, he's more privileged, he travel more than us. And then that is break. Then there's a space to dream. And you put them in your dreams, you put them in the way you see things, and allow them, even if it's not valid for us, the way they see things, the way they can imagine things, it should be valid because we still learn something. It teaches us something to get to the next level. So we shouldn't go with an agenda. We should open and make it a safe space and ready to listen. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jemo. I would like to give Françoise the last word, so to speak, and a reaction.
Well, I was thinking that, what a migrant can bring in terms of imagination, can offer in terms of imagination and challenging the nation, especially at a moment when Europe is getting, and Europe, I mean the North, not North America and Europe, are becoming fortress and justifying killing people at their border. Either really, I mean, like the young man talking about his friend killed in Ceuta, in this place, I mean, the Spanish city in Morocco. And so the growing wars everywhere, barbed wire, and this talking about wars been among border as if it's, like, okay, that's, the world will be covered with wars. And wars being built everywhere. I mean, started in Israel, of course, but it's also now between Mexico and United States, between Poland and Belarus. And everyone is talking about wars. And I am in France currently, and there is a law about immigration that is being discussed and certainly will be voted, which is one of the most racist laws, absolutely the most racist law that's going to pass. So there is also, we have to confront that. This is absolute, of course, a total lack of imagination, not in terms of, we should be, go along together, but in fact of effectively a fear, a total fear of the present. People living totally in the past, as if they think. I mean, you see the kids going out of school. It's over for white France. It's over. There would be, it's like, it's a fact. It's just a fact. And so this fear, this absolute panic that even produce extremely violent action, as we saw in New Zealand and elsewhere. I mean, when young men come and take a gun and kill people, kill Black and brown people. So this is, again, this incredible now form of a very nation totally locked in itself, of white supremacy, and that we're going to live, I don't know, in some kind of pure society, which is totally a fantasy. Of course, it's an illusion, does not exist. But this fear. I will say that migrant break this idea of the nation locking itself. About the freedom of circulation. That human beings have a right to circulate, and we have effectively to say this form of ethno-nationalism. We're going to fight against it. We're going to, dismantle it. Because this is, and suddenly, totally reinvention of tradition. This place was always like this, always like that, which is totally fiction, total fiction, but serve for far-right policy that, in fact, government defend today. I mean, they have totally borrowed and adopted the far-right vocabulary. So in terms of imagination, of like effectively dismantling this ethno-nationalism, that again, I say is a fiction, is extremely important. And solidarity, as we say more and more than I myself say, is work. Is like also to go against that fear, to say, what are you afraid of? What are you afraid of? What is your fear? What are you afraid of? And you have to understand that your fear will not protect you, from the world. The world is changing, and your fear is, in fact, not helping you to imagine. Fear make you, like ferocious, make you mean, Because when you're afraid, you become mean. And that meanness that we see in a lot of, you know, in Italy, in Germany, in France, in the UK, everywhere. I mean, these people, they don't know what to invent now to close their door. The meanness, and as Yemo was saying, they justify the separation of children from their parents in the United States as well. They justify that. They put people in center, you know, like, which are terrible, which are pure torture. And they call that human, you know, human rights. All this, I will say, that the community that migrants are creating, inventing, imagining, and also practicing, it's not just imagination, is offering today what will be, you know, tomorrow. That this imagination of a world that will be post-patriarchal, post-racist, and post-capitalist, and that will rest on people living together in peace, Because for now, the North, and you know, it's a lie also everywhere, is also offering us permanent war, either by bombing people, or, you know, the war on the poor, you know, letting people, you know, die in incredible, you know, situation. I mean, again, this inhumanity and this dehumanization, what is brought with the pedagogy is a broad pedagogy of humanizing the world. Because the world is not yet fully human in the sense of living together and living with also non-human species, plants, animals, the river, the water, the ocean, rather than having a utilitarian approach to these things, you know. They have to serve. So we will destroy the sea, the river, the lake, the animal, the plant for the enjoyment of a few. So this is also, I will say that, for instance, because there was evocation of the desert. There will be also perhaps what is a desert when you have crossed it, not as a soldier, not as an explorer, or you know, all this blah, blah, blah about the desert, but as someone who crossed it by foot and understood why this stone is here, why this mean that, why this mean that, and a reconnection with a nature that is being said to be hostile, and you know, but then an understanding of that. The way also they will cross the forest everywhere, you know, in what is supposed, you know, what was called Eastern Europe, or the mountain, and an understanding of that. What is this land from which they have also to survive, and with which they will survive? That is become a companion. The forest, the desert become a companion, not just they have to go through that. So I think this is incredible, effectively a very important source of imagination and inspiration to fight against this incredible destructive ideology that we are confronting. It's an ideology of death. I mean, so many people are dying every day in the Mediterranean, in the mountain, in total indifference of this. And on top of it, they invent incredible you know, laws to make it even worse. And in the name, you know, and in the meantime, they talk about human rights. It's this also. This is not humanity. This is not the humanity. So it's not just their universalism is a lie. Their vision of what is humanity is wrong. Because for them, the humanity is just themselves, which is really that of the world, right? Very tiny amount. So this, there are, you know, Caribbean philosophers who say that we are still to be human, in the sense that the way the West presented the human was in fact utilitarian approach and inventing, you know, race difference and race hierarchy. We have still, you know, to go beyond that and really invent what is to be human together and living with non-human species together. And so that for me is this practice. And I want to say that this is already happening. It's not something for tomorrow. This is happening if you know where to look. If you don't arrive with like what Yemo was saying of some student who come and extract. It's another logic of extraction to get a PhD when they're going to talk about migrant, but it's extraction. Because in fact, it's not working with the migrant, is extracting from the migrant what then will give me a PhD or a master that will serve my name. So all this is being questioned right now, has been questioned. And I think this is really a lot of a radical hope in the sense of, yes, something is in the making. Okay, there is a lot of suffering. Let's not, idolize. There's a lot of things, but there is an incredible source of imagining, which is really, we are really living an important moment in the 21st century. The challenge is there about this form of abstract universalism, in this form of humanism that does not pay attention, in fact, to human and non-human. So I think, yeah, there is it's going to take time, but there is a long road to freedom, and we have also to take inspiration from the ancestors, because they gave us strength. They never gave up. So they gave us that, and so we have to live up to it. We owe them to live, because they fought, and the world they gave us is that world of imagination.
Thank you so much, Françoise. Those were very beautiful, incisive final words. Unfortunately, we have run out of time. I mean, the rich testimony, the conversation between you could have gone on for much longer, and we really thank you for your honesty, for your candidness, for your frankness, for also putting the finger on the wound and on the problem, right? Designing humanity rather than humanitarianism, right? So that is really, we thank you greatly, and I will give the final word to Kenny now.
Oh, actually, I didn't want to speak, but
I thought you raised your hand.
Sorry, no. All good. Just to thank you also from my side. This was incredibly illuminating, and I love this conversation. I hope we didn't go too much over time for our listeners on the other end. We'll see each other hopefully in a few weeks from now for our
time. Yes, on the 28th of November. For Rural Futurisms in conversation with Jermaine Barnes, which is also going to be a very rich conversation, around different modes of building with the earth, with mycelium in rural South Africa. That's a kind of our geographic base for the next talk. So you're all cordially invited, and we thank again our participants for today, and yeah, wish you a wonderful evening.